Good morning, soul family. How are you? Thanks for being here. I posted a video yesterday about choosing ourselves first and how everything and everyone wants us to do that. And then this morning, I was just reflecting on that, and I feel like there was more clarity I wanted to share on that, and I wanted to share a personal story. Again, take what resonates with you. I understand if you might have a different experience, right? So I'm just sharing whatever I share in this channel is just what I have found to be true for myself and my experience after my awakening. Okay. So the words "choose myself." When we hear that, when we hear "choose myself," naturally we think of like, oh, I'm not gonna put up with anyone's bullshit. I'm not gonna allow disrespect and all that, right? From an egoic perspective of I'm choosing myself. If anyone does me quote unquote wrong, I'm walking away, right? That's definitely what I used to consider choosing myself, and I've always put myself first. I've always chosen myself. Maybe it took a little longer, right? Like how many times have we overstayed in a relationship or something? But ultimately at the end of the day, it's like, now I'm choosing myself. Well, before I awakened, there was a time when I had cut off everyone in my life because of very dark things I've experienced, and my perception was this person's a narcissist, my family's narcissistic, I need to just cut everyone out. And no one, I also write songs, and one of the songs I wrote was like lyrics were like me, once you go into your higher self and become on my level, basically, then I'll let you in my life, right? And that's kind of what we do before we're awakened. We'll say we work on our growth, we work on ourselves, we keep going inward. We get to that spiritual place of understanding energy and how crucial energy is, right? Then it gets to the point of almost trying to protect our energy. And so we almost isolate ourselves, right? We probably do. We isolate ourselves. The world becomes very dark. We can't trust anyone. And then when we awaken, we realize, oh shoot, it's the other way around. I have to always be operating in my highest self. If others are going to reflect to me that which I desire, right? So if we want people to be more loving, if we want people to be more kind, if we want people to be more generous, we first have to turn inward. Number one, we have to be that for ourselves and for others, right? But then we also have to see everyone in that light, because we recognize we're creators. And so when we talk about choosing ourselves, there's almost like two levels, right? There's the egoic perspective that I was talking about earlier, where the hard boundaries, I'm not going to put up with bullshit, yada yada. And then there's the highest spiritual approach, which is, well, I am all there is, everything is me, so I choose a different reality. If someone's acting in a way that I don't appreciate, instead of trying to fix that situation, instead of acting in a way that reinforces my idea of the physical reality as all there is, I'm going to not try to control it. I'm not going to react at all to this person's behavior. And I'm going to go inward. And maybe I'll distance myself, right? Distance myself. But I'm going to hold the reality, choose the reality that I envision inside, right? That I feel inside. So if you're like, man, I know this person's my husband. I know the way he's acting right now. It doesn't look like it, right? The traits are not there. The circumstances even don't align to this, but I know in my soul, like I just feel like there's something there. I know this is my husband. So choose that reality where that's your husband then. Are you gonna keep trying? And then choose the reality of the relationship you want to be in too. Are you going to try to fix everything around you? Do you really want to be in a relationship where you're having to babysit right behavior? Do you really want to be in a relationship where you're having to worry, right? So we have to fix ourselves inside first before we can ever invoke the physical reality to match our insides, right? And so we do this in relationships a lot. I'll never forget, in my first marriage, isn't that so sad I have to say first marriage? I really don't like that. I can revise that. But yeah, I was married for a very short time. We eloped, it was like 6 months. And I realized after we divorced that I had projected really bad just things that happened in my past onto him, right? And I think that's normal in relationships. A lot of times we can be single forever, but until we're in a relationship with someone, all that fear, everything we were carrying is not going to come to light, right? So that's the beauty of relationships. It really allows us to see our shadows and to bring them to the forefront. That, and I just it was interesting. I didn't know what love was. I knew what love was according to the world, right? And I was operating on that. I was operating on a very egoic paradigm. And so if you've been married too under that, maybe you're still married and you've awoken within the marriage. Maybe your partner is still not still operating on the egoic level, but you are not. Or maybe you got divorced too after you awoke. I would love to know in the comments if you relate to that. Either way, when we're in that predicament, and even if we're not married, even if we have family members and friends where there's still that egoic paradigm, right, and you're awoken, of course it can be super difficult to not just want to run away and cut ourselves off and say, well, I'm putting myself first, but we have to remember that's a trick of the illusion. So in these instances, choosing ourselves, what I have found, and this is just what I have found, so let me know in the comments if you have a different experience, but it's choosing the I am, choosing my I am awareness, right? Choosing the reality, choosing the identity, and holding myself in that place. So naturally, when we hold ourselves in a new identity that differs from the physical reality we're experiencing, we're holding ourselves in a spiritual position, right? Because we're holding ourselves to a standard that is invisible, that makes no sense to the senses. Isn't that funny? Sense to the senses? Nothing in operating in this once we're awake is supposed to make sense, right? When we're in the I am, there is no sense to it because we are acting on the immaterial. We're acting within our true nature, which is our spiritual nature, right? So just always remember too, the senses are deception. The senses are deception. This is why in the tarot deck, it's the devil card. The senses are deception, okay? If you look more into Satanism too, it's all just worshiping. All the devil is, it's representative of our five senses is only believing what is material, okay? So remember, the highest realm is within us, and our highest self is always guiding us. It's always there, and we are Godhead, right? So when we choose ourselves, I think I just want to encourage you, if you've been feeling like, well, I'm still cutting, I'm tired of isolating myself. I would encourage you to learn to be in relationship with your highest self, and you can have fun with it, right? It just becomes, what I found is love and compassion becomes the reward, right? Seeing everyone as a divine being, regardless of their behavior, is the reward. Because when we're at this level too, respect is a construct. Disrespect, it's all a construct. And these are all just barriers to the reality of eternal love, of infinite love, of all that is. And so when we can really love and be love in its purest form, when we can truly be present in love, instead of saying, no, I'm only going to be here when someone acts this way, right? I'm going to walk away as soon as someone shows me XYZ. We're literally planting in the universe that, if that's your number one, it's creating an algorithm, right? So if you have in your mind this set of conditions that you can't accept, that's going to show at some point, because you have that condition. So the universe is like, oh, there's a condition, let me meet it. Let me meet it. And it's going to always show you that truth, right? Where the unconditional part comes in and why it's magical is because when we don't have conditions, it allows everything to remain as pure consciousness and living form, and things can change in an instant. That's living by faith. And so the boundaries are more for us, right? For our behavior, in response to what are we going to do with our energy? What are we going to do with our thoughts? What are we going to do with our words, right? And our actions. But so I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to, what's coming to me as I'm sharing this is I'm like, I can imagine someone just kind of saying, but what if they're acting ways that's not acceptable? Well, like, yeah, distance yourself, but how can I say this? It's knowing that even though what is happening in front of us, even if you have to distance yourself, even if you do have to walk away, it's holding the inner knowing that I am the truth. I am awareness, and my awareness dictates reality. So, no matter what is going on in front of me, I send compassion and love. I see you as a divine being. And I choose to hold my vision. I know you are so kind. I know you are so communicative. I know you are so devoted to me. I know you are faithful to me. And this is what Neville Goddard taught, is he taught, instead of going to someone directly and communicating with them and trying to change the situation through communication, just imagine having that conversation how you want it to go. Imagine having that conversation. Imagine the outcome you want, and don't do anything in the physical realm. Rather, change the reflection so that the mirror can reflect the change, right? So I guess, as you can see, right, this is new for me too. That's why I'm kind of stumbling over my words here. But it's something I've been practicing for a long time. And I've constantly had to do this with my family too, like, because I had so many narratives about them. I had so many narratives that I have to let go, because I know that the narratives I hold about them is just going to attract more of that into my life, right? I am projecting that onto them. If I call someone a narcissist, I'm going to see more quote unquote narcissists, right? Because everything is me and I am everything. We are one energy. We are one force field. We are one consciousness. So instead, I'm revising the feelings I have in my heart. I'm changing my mind about them. I'm saying, no, my family is so loving and so supportive. My family is so loving and so supportive. I have always been supported. I'll create memories in my head of my mom speaking to me a certain way. I'll create memories of me, if I did something that I don't like, I'll revise a memory of something I did. Because it's that feeling state, it's that invisible state that creates reality. And so, yeah, when we choose ourselves, it's just about remembering that choosing yourself is to choose the highest reality, is to choose the highest self, to choose the highest love, right? So often, when I've been, I do have a love interest, right? And I've been talking to him, and I see his heart so much, and I do have so much love for him, right? And I think I had all these expectations of things to go a certain way, and it's not, right? And I had to step back and say, okay, I know who I am, and so I know what I want. I know I'm living in the end. I'm living in the end for a certain outcome of the relationship, right? And so when things are playing out and it looks very much opposite of the inner vision I hold, right? I'm like, wow, well, I feel like I'm like in a very loving relationship. I'm in a relationship where there's so much trust and so much communication, and you know, it's so fulfilling emotionally. It's just, it's better than I could have ever imagined, right? And then the opposite, and then your reality is like, oh yeah, well, what about this? And you're like, oh, that doesn't match what I have in my heart. Okay. It's like, I'm just, I'm choosing love every time. I'm choosing to act in love, without compromising my standards. And I think this is where it gets tricky for me, is how do we hold love, act in unconditional love with our standards, right? I think it's just understanding that the world outside of us is temporary. It's always changing. And the only reality is the love we have inside, right? And so even regardless, let's say if that outcome never happens, like that's still okay, because I know I'm still acting on my highest self. So then what now? The thing that's actually fulfilling is acting on my highest self, acting in the highest love, being that love. That was a really long-winded video, but I hope this helps someone. I think sometimes maybe we get too attached to the outcomes, we get too attached to the outer world, and when we say choosing ourselves, I think we just have to be careful that we're not perpetuating an egoic thing out of protecting our energy, which is actually, when we quote unquote try to protect our energy, we're reinforcing to the universe that we have to protect our energy, and so naturally it's going to attract that, right? Like, oh, I'm going to send you more things to protect yourself from. Does that make sense? Because you're being someone who's operating in a way who has to protect themselves. Whereas if you act as someone and live in the way of, I am always safe, I am always loved, I am of the highest love, I am prosperous, I am wealthy, I am blessed, the universe will send you more of that. Because you're like, oh, okay, now you're putting yourself first, right? So it's putting the highest identity first, the I am awareness first. So regardless of what I see on the outside, to speak, behave, and think, and thoughts will always come, right? We're human. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna, the thoughts will stray from that I am awareness, but we just redirect it, right? We just redirect it and keep going back to that. And that's choosing ourselves first, right? That's saying, I am not impacted. The I am awareness is never impacted by what's happening outside of me. I know that's a big claim, but if you can really just sit with that and make that your truth, not only understand it, but really make that your truth and live in that commitment, that discipline of I am awareness, and nothing outside of me can impact me. And feel the depth of that. Feel how that changes the way you show up. How would that change if you really know that, if you really believe in that, if that's your conviction? How would that change your response to the outer world? So thanks for watching. I really appreciate you being here. I'm really happy about this community. You guys give me so much courage to show up every day, and I just hope, I appreciate the opportunity to encourage you to show up in a way that honors your true self too, your highest self, the I am, so that you can choose your reality too. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.